Okay, so we're diving deep today into a topic you brought me, and wow, this is a big one, the future of money.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating landscape right now.
It really is. You sent over some sources about Bitcoin and central bank digital currencies, CBDCs,
Right?
and it seems like things are really heating up. I mean, we've got countries like China already rolling out their digital yuan. The EU is working on MiCA regulations, and even the U.S. seems to be kind of testing the waters with CBDCs.
Yeah, it's interesting because, on the surface, it all seems like a pretty logical progression, right? Faster payments,
Yeah,
less fraud, more
yeah,
efficiency.
for sure.
But the sources you send over, they really highlight some deeper issues, some potential downsides that we need to consider.
Yeah, definitely. Like the whole idea of a battle for financial freedom. That phrase came up a lot when I was reading, and I have to admit it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand why, when you start talking about governments having more control over your money, it definitely raises some eyebrows.
Mhm. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. Why are some people seeing CBDCs as such a threat?
Well, at the core of it is this idea of control and surveillance.
Yeah.
One of the sources you sent, an article from a libertarian think tank, actually uses this phrase, programmable money. And it's a pretty chilling thought when you really think about it.
Programmable money. What does that even mean?
So imagine a world where governments could actually set like expiry dates on your money, like use it or lose it kind of thing, or even restrict what you can buy with certain funds, or even automatically deduct taxes and fines.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound a little bit like something out of a dystopian novel.
It does, right?
But honestly, like, don't governments already have a certain amount of control over finances? Like, I mean,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, traditional banking systems definitely give government some oversight. With CBDCs, it's potentially a whole different level of control.
yeah.
It's like think of it this way, like paying with cash. It's kind of like sending a letter in a sealed envelope. It's private, right? Nobody knows what's inside unless they open it. But using a CBDC, it would be more like sending a postcard.
Wow.
Everyone along the way can see what you're sending. And your sources really highlighted this idea that that kind of transparency could really stifle free speech and dissent. People might be afraid to make transactions that could be seen as suspicious or could draw unwanted attention.
Yeah, I mean, one of the sources I read, it was a report from a human rights group, and they even suggested that CBDCs could be used to like exclude certain groups from the economy. It's almost like a modern day blacklist.
Right, it's a scary thought, right? And that's really one of the biggest concerns with CBDCs, the potential for them to be weaponized against individuals or groups.
Okay, so then on the other side of the ring we have Bitcoin,
Mhm.
and one of the sources you sent was this white paper that basically argues that Bitcoin is the answer to all this government overreach. They paint this picture of a digital Wild West where individuals are in complete control. How realistic is that image?
Well, there's no doubt that Bitcoin was designed with decentralization as like a core principle, right? The whole idea of the blockchain technology behind it is to allow peer-to-peer transactions. You cut out the middlemen, you cut out the banks.
Right.
But like you mentioned earlier, the EU's MiCA regulation shows that even Bitcoin isn't entirely immune to government influence. Governments are finding ways to assert some control, even if they can't completely control it.
So where does that leave us then? Is it really a simple choice between the convenience and maybe security of CBDCs and the freedom of Bitcoin?
I don't think it's ever that simple. And one of the most interesting articles you sent actually argued that CBDCs and Bitcoin, they might not be mutually exclusive. They could actually coexist in the financial
Oh,
system.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it suggested that CBDCs could be used for kind of everyday transactions, while Bitcoin could act more as a store of value, like a digital gold, almost like having a diversified portfolio, but for currencies.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Right. And then you have other cryptocurrencies like Monero, which was mentioned in that cybersecurity report you sent.
Right. Well, this deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. I mean, one big question I'm left with, though, is if CBDCs do become the norm, will people be willing to trade some level of financial freedom for the convenience and maybe security that they offer? Or will the desire for autonomy push the development of even more decentralized and private financial solutions?
It is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's a question that goes way beyond just technology. It really touches on fundamental questions of individual liberty and the role of government and what kind of society we want to live in.
Wow, food for thought for sure. Well, thank you so much for helping me connect all these dots and for this deep dive into the future of money. It's been fascinating.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thanks to all of you for listening and diving deep with us.
See ya.
Until next time.